Hi Hollywood Lifers, it's Bonnie here today, and I've got Dina Manzo and Jackie Choloe, and we're here today to talk about Dina and Jackie's involvement in raising money for pediatric cancer through an organization that Dina founded, which is a wonderful thing. It's called Project Ladybug, and it's a national organization, and Jackie is heading it up here in New York. Now, pediatric cancer is something that's very close to my heart too, and I think it's a cause that I think is very important to get behind, to take care of our children. My own daughter Layla, who is now 13, was afflicted with leukemia when she was 5, and thank God she was successfully treated. And Jackie's son has been treated for a different form of leukemia, and he's been treated for the last 4.5 years, and he's currently still in treatment. And so, we're going to talk about what these ladies are doing and how you can help.
Well, because we started off so small, I wanted every penny to the children to really feel every penny. So what we do is kind of the forgotten things. We'll throw their birthday parties. We'll give them laptop computers so they'll be homeschooled. We're building a rooftop playground over at St. Joe's.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Kids can play there. But the more and more I get into it, and the more we grow, I'm learning more about the lack of research and the treatment for children too. So my goal is to have a fund in hospitals throughout the country, but also to have small little research centers within Ladybug where we can research on our own the way Sloan does.
Clinical trials.
Right, so that you can, so the idea is to help families and children with, because there's a lot of children, and we found this when my daughter was in the hospital too. I mean, there's a lot of children who are on Medicare, they don't come from wealthy families,
Yeah.
they come from needy families, and I mean, today, more than ever, there's a lot of needy families, and yet, I mean, these children, they need treatment, but it is true, they don't have, the parents might not have the money to have a nice little party for them, and to try and brighten up their days.
Exactly. I mean, our whole thought process is to make their treatment a positive one, and to turn their mindset, because that's really half the battle, is keeping positive and staying positive. And for children, if we're rewarding them with little parties and iPads and laptops, in return for this painful chemo that they go for, it kind of changes it where they're almost excited to go and get their treatment instead of dreading it, because they're that closer to getting their goal of that iPod or iPad. But what I love about Sloan and working with Jackie is she really knows the ins and outs. And Julian is, he's gone through 2 bone marrow transplants, and to go through all this and then to suffer from graft versus host disease the way Julian is, I mean, that should never happen. So we're kind of like branching out a little bit and kind of researching a little bit more how we can help these children.
Right.
And I can tell you, as far as the families go in the hospitals, even people who were at one time wealthy or working class families, you have to stay with your child when they're being hospitalized. So I meet countless people who've lost their jobs, lost their homes. Many of them end up living at their own McDonald's house. And we need to do more to support them. There are some smaller foundations out there who will help with bills, but Dina's goal was to take care of their quality of life while they're here, being treated in the hospitals, and just to give them anything we can to make them happy.
And it is so true that having gone through this myself, a parent has to be with your child at all times in the hospital. You can't just leave them there with a nurse. And in fact, my husband quit his job when we were going through this, because it was just, we looked at our finances, and it made more sense for him to stop working.
Yeah.
But so that happens all the time, and there's single parent families too that are in this situation. And as you pointed out, you can lose your house because you just can't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at Ladybug, if we're not able to financially step in, we'll find a foundation who will, and we'll work with them and make sure that they have everything that they need.
And that's another thing, Hollywood Lifers, that you probably aren't aware of if you don't have a child who's gone through cancer treatment, but most of the research is being done on adults. I mean, it's very hard for certain kind of clinical trials to happen with children, because there's morality questions or ethical questions, like how can you only give this to some children and not others? And also they're always worried about the dosages.
Yes. Well, still, their children are still being treated with
adult
smaller doses of adult medication.
That's what, as I'm finding out, doesn't make any sense to me. It should be the reverse to me. Give these children a chance at living. I mean, no one should have cancer. but for the kids to come last, and I think what is it, 3% or?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing some more research last night. For every, if you go across the board, for every $6 that's spent on research for AIDS, there's $1 spent for breast cancer, and it's only 30 cents going to pediatrics. So if you don't do it privately, if you don't go there and really make a difference, the children are dying.
And the frustrating thing too is that there's been a lot of success with children's cancer, and I think like 75 to 80% of children that get cancer do get cured. However, it's that last 20% that's really tough, and that your son is falling into.
Yeah.
And that they really haven't made progress in a lot of years, Hollywood Lifers. So, we really hope that you will get on board and help support Project Ladybug or other organizations that are looking to fund research. Now, Jackie, tell us more about your son and what you've gone through.
My son is amazing. He had such a beautiful, promising life. My husband and I were always, very big with supporting children's charities, and we enjoyed our life. And, you always think it's almost too good to be true. You never want to say it out loud, but you feel like it's perfect. And you have this beautiful, healthy child, and you travel all over. And you want to give them everything that you've had and everything that you've never had. You want them to experience the world. And I can tell you, my son had an amazing life until he started getting sick around his 3rd birthday. And, months later, he was diagnosed with adult leukemia. And they told me he had very little chance of surviving at all. And they couldn't get him into remission. He required a bone marrow transplant, so he was transferred to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center.
And just say again the name of the leukemia. It's acute. It's AML. Myeloid.
Yeah, lymphoma.
Yeah,
AML is the adult. It's most popular with men between the ages of 60 and 70 years old who have been in industrial settings for long periods of time. So it absolutely has something to do with the environment. Some people are predisposed genetically. You can have 10 people living in the same place where the environment is not very good. 3 or 4 of them may get sick, and the rest will be healthy. But there's not enough research going into curing the children that are sick or finding out why and preventing other people from having to go through this.
Jackie also has her own foundation in Julian's name that goes directly towards research.
Right.
So why don't you tell people where they can find it?
I started the Julian Choloe Foundation. I started the Julian Choloe Foundation in my son's honor after his first bone marrow transplant, against the doctor's wishes. They said, please don't do anything. You're not out of the woods yet. We want you to concentrate on taking care of your son. And I said, I have to give back, because living the first year and seeing so many children that were healthier than my son pass away. I mean, I've seen children from age 3, age 4, age 12, age 19, die. And it's senseless. We have to do more.
It's heartbreaking.
I don't understand that. When I found out that we could really prevent some of these deaths, with our foundation, we've donated about $130,000 specifically to different trials in the hospital, but we've already saved, as of, I think it was May, we've saved 2 children that we know of.
Wow,
If you can go
that's
through
incredible.
Yeah, so that's why I love working with Jackie and her foundation, because not only are we saving lives, but we're the children that are there, we're improving the quality of life while they're there. So together, we're making a huge difference for everyone.
Yeah. We are a force together. There are a lot of foundations out there, a lot of great foundations, and please support all children's foundations.
Yes,
but we don't have any restrictions. We're not saying you have to be less than 18, because if you're diagnosed at 19, then what do you do?
And we work very closely with the social workers in child life, and they let us know exactly what these kids and their families need. There's no red tape, there's no downtime. If someone's, God forbid, terminal, and they want a last-minute trip, there's no red tape, and fill out this paperwork, they're going to get their trip.
They have such an amazing spirit and optimism and will to live, and it's, they're inspiring. They're really inspiring. And so your son had a bone marrow transplant. Did it seem to take or help for a while?
It did. It was wonderful. It was celebrated because he bounced back. He was great. And we were home a little bit more than a month. It was right after his birthday, and he came up to me. We were tested constantly, and he came up to me one afternoon and he said, "Mom, did my leukemia come back? And I said, no, Julie, you're fine. I'm so sorry you have to worry about that. He said, but I had a dream. You know, God came to me in a dream, or I think it was God, but somebody told me that I have to come back now. And I looked at him and my heart stopped, and I said, you poor thing, you've been through so much. It's really, you're fine. The doctors told me there's nothing wrong with you. And he said, really, Mama? And he ran up for the first time in a year, and he climbed up on his swing set, and he slid down with his arms up in the air. He yelled, no more leukemia. And I snapped the shot, and 3 days later, we were in New York, and I had my list of when can we go back to school, when can we go on vacation, you know, when can he play with his friends. And I was in the middle of my checklist, and the doctor took a phone call, and he turned around, his face was white as a sheet. And he said that was the lab. And I just said to him, and I said, okay, well, if you're busy, you know, we can talk about this next week. And he shook his head, and he said, no, you don't understand. They found something. And I wasn't ready to have the conversation. I said, okay, we'll just pick this up next week. And he's like, please, you know, call me. I'll know something in 24 hours. And I don't know how I made it out of the office that day. My knees were shaking. I got in the car, I came home, and I think I collapsed in my bathroom. And I called, and I started crying, and he started crying. He said, I'm so sorry, they found abnormal cells. And I was so sure, I mean, everyone was so sure that the transplant took. Oh, by the way, if you're not a registered donor, please check out the bone marrow registry. My son was 1 in 6 million. They went through 6 million people before they could find a match for him. And, you know, it came from a stranger, which is, you know, why later there could be complications. You know, he was very lucky to survive it. They didn't think he would have an opportunity to have a second transplant. But he did, and the donor was willing to do it again. You know, he called my doctor and he said, you know, you tell me what I need to do. If I cut off my right arm right now, if it will help save this little boy. And he came in and he did what he had to do. They had to change the transplant. So the first time they take it, it's without the person's immune system. It's called a T-cell depleted. It's modified, but once they do that, and the cancer hides, apparently these cancer cells are smart enough to hide.
Yeah.
And then they mutate and they become smarter and stronger. So the second time you can't use the first chemo you used the first time. He required radiation and an unmodified transplant. So you're taking on someone's entire immune system, T cells, which is the cause of graft versus host disease. It's your blood is fighting your organs.
Right.
So it's a constant battle. And my son recently told the doctor, you've been telling me all along, my husband, been telling me to fight this. I think you've got it all wrong. He said, it's time for my body to make peace. You know, I need my cells and I need my blood and my organs to live together. And that's how I'm going to beat this.
And so is the cancer is gone?
Cancer is gone.
Yay.
Replaced, yes, yay.
Yay. Yay.
Cancer
The cancer's gone.
It's still a cancer-related disease because it's, you know, he has
Graft
no immune
versus
system. Right.
Host. How's he doing? Is he able to go to school?
He's not able to go to school. Since it affects your organs, skin being your largest organ, his skin became very thick.
Mm-hmm.
Steroids give you the moon face.
Right.
You're probably
yes, my
familiar
daughter
with.
had that.
Right. Scleroderma. It hurts your tissues inside. It prevents you from healing properly. So, you know, with the metaports and the broviads.
Right.
So he's been through countless surgeries over the past years. And he's a fighter. He's still fighting. I'm sure Dina will show you the YouTube video. An amazing kid.
Well, he sounds like an absolutely amazing kid.
Yes, he's wonderful.
And we will all, okay, now the thing is, it's not just about, you know, keeping our fingers crossed. It's about doing something, which is what you're both doing.
Yes.
It's about looking to raise money for research and to provide the kind of like necessities that children need. So it's actually very, it's concrete. There's concrete steps and things to do to help children like Julian, because more research needs to be done to deal with the effects of graft versus host disease, which is part of cancer treatment. And so I just applaud these ladies here for doing what they're doing, and we want to spread this message to you.